Hello, I'm Brent.
And I'm Scott.
And this
is Strange Embers.
I'm just going to throw it out there. I freaking love our intro.
Yeah, the intro is, it's catchy. I really do. I enjoy it.
I like it.
I actually caught myself listening to it today. I was on my computer just doing some research. I was like, you know what? I want to listen to Spotify. So I put Spotify on. Like, it's just not hitting where it's at. So I go into my files and I just loop the intro like 3 or 4 times. I was like, all right, I'm good now.
When we put that intro together, just a little tidbit so everybody else can get a laugh. When we first put that intro together, I tried to have Scott and myself say Strange Embers at the same time. So my wife was sitting over here beside me. She listens to me put this thing together. I'm editing. I put it together, back it up, put it together, back it up, put it together, back. So she hears it over and over and over. And the timing was just not quite right. So now every single time one of our episodes is on, as soon as Scott says, "This is Strange Embers," then my wife automatically just goes, "Strange Embers." Every single time. She just verbally says it to me.
That's awesome.
Everybody, glad you're here. Scott, glad you're here.
I'm glad you're here too, Brent.
So
wonderful evening.
It is. A little hot, but we'll get there.
It is.
Let's dive in.
Yeah, man. Wheel spin.
Let's do it.
Let's hit that button. We got Wyoming. So we're going to go right on over here. We're going to type that in for episode 12 of our 50-state haunt. We have Wyoming.
While he's putting that up there, I will say we have made these 50-state haunts a little longer.
Yeah.
All the way leading up to right now, but we've decided that we're going to probably find one place each that we both like and kind of jump into those and do a little bit, because it became more of, we like the history part of these as well as just the haunted part. So to be able to speak on these places just a little bit longer, we're going to do one apiece now. If y'all like that, let us know that y'all like it that way as well.
So tonight we've got Kansas for our 50-state haunt.
Dive in. Let's go.
All right. Do you want me to, or do you
go ahead?
You know, us, we, me, you, us.
We, us. We's? Just
Just
go at the same time. How about we do this? I'm going to say mine. You say yours. We're going to do them at the exact same time. Yeah, we're going to get a super short episode, but it's going to be just this mashed up mess of verbal dance that we're going to do.
You're not going to be able to understand anything.
Not a word. They probably can't understand anything anyway.
Well, that's true. Well, for Kansas, I wouldn't say it's a paranormal, but it does have a little bit of a legend vibe to it. It is a cemetery, and it's called Stoll Cemetery. That's spelled Stull. It has gained a bunch of reputation and popularity that revolves around Satan, the occult, and there is also a quote-unquote gateway to hell that will arise every so often.
Apparently there's a bunch of gateways everywhere, right?
Yeah, there is. This one in particular, though, is kind of different. The rumors about the cemetery were popularized by a November 1974 issue of the University Daily Kansas, which was a student newspaper at the University of Kansas. And it claimed that the devil appeared in Stoll twice a year, once on Halloween and once on the spring equinox. People soon said the cemetery was the location of one of the 7 gates to hell, and that the nearby evangelical Emmanuel Church ruin was possessed by the devil. Others claim that the legend was engineered by the killing of Stoll's mayor back in the 1850s. It is also said that during a trip to Colorado in the 1990s, the Pope redirected the flight path of his private plane to avoid flying over the unholy ground of Stole. Although there is no proof of this, this is where the legend comes in, some of the legend here, and lore behind it. Most historians and local residents are in agreement that the legend has no basis in historical fact and was created and spread by students. Folks swear an old tree in the graveyard once served as gallows for condemned witches who return each year as Satan's army. But it is the cemetery that is most feared, for they say it is Beelzebub's gate. The voices of the dead will strangle you while evil spirits carve out your innards. They say that in the basement of the abandoned church in Stole, Kansas, there is a staircase, and if you follow that staircase down and continue to go down, you will reach the entrance to hell itself. And if you can crawl your way back up that ladder, escape from the bowels of hell to reach the surface, you will have to climb for weeks. That is, if the devil does not grab you first. They say on the night before Halloween, a woman in a white dress lures drivers to their death along the highway's edge, never to be seen again. In the years that followed the publication of the University Daily Kansas article, the legend persuaded thrill seekers to visit the cemetery, and they would claim that weird and creepy events such as noises and memory lapses happened to them, leading to further speculation that the town was haunted by witches and the devil. It became a popular activity for young folks, especially high school and college students from Lawrence and Topeka, to journey to the cemetery on Halloween or the equinox to see the devil. Many would jump fences or otherwise sneak their way onto the property to do so. Over many decades, as the number of people making excursions to the cemetery grew, the graveyard started to deteriorate. On top of that, you had teenagers and stuff that were going out there vandalizing, knocking headstones over, spray painting stuff, being idiots. So to combat that, the sheriff's office pretty much took control of that, and they start patrolling the area, the whole cemetery. They patrol it heavily on Halloween and the equinox, and they will arrest anybody that is trespassing. Those caught inside the cemetery after it is closed could face a maximum fine of $1,000 and up to 6 months in prison.
Wow.
There's also another story I didn't write down. This one's going over the whole church, the ruins of the church. If you go into the basement, it leads to the gateway of hell. However, there's another lore that goes something to the effect of the night before Halloween, if you're there at like 10:45, 11 o'clock at night, an hour and a half before midnight, before Halloween hits, there'll be a lady in white that walks. You follow the lady in white into a bush. The bush will transform into a pathway that has floating rocks, pretty much like steps, but it descends into the earth.
That's interesting. So when is the floating rocks? When is that?
The night before Halloween, the 30th.
The 30th. Awesome. So,
I mean, it's like right at midnight on the 31st is when that quote unquote happens.
So we drive up there or do we fly? How are we going?
I mean, it's Kansas.
Because we're going to try that, right?
Sure, why
Do
not?
I need to be there for that?
Sure. I think there's other things that we could definitely try that would be a little bit more credible than floating rocks that lead into the core of the earth. But I thought it was
Probably
pretty
so.
interesting. I thought it was pretty cool.
I did like that. I'm going to go into one that is called Sowers Castle. This is a 3-story 18th century German Gothic-inspired brick mansion built by a German businessman and entrepreneur, Anton Philipp Sauer. He built this said castle for his second wife, Marie, and their 5 daughters. It has a really tall watchtower that was on with a walkway on the roof. The front doors of this thing were huge, 10 foot wide, 10 foot high, 6 inches thick, solid doors. All right, so The inside of this house was 12-foot ceilings, a lot of walnut and oak was put into the house. There's a 4-story staircase that connects the floors and attic and the tower all together. The first floor rooms had marble fireplaces, chandeliers. It was built. It was real nice. Okay, so on this one, I'm going to jump back and forth on kind of the history of it and what it is about this house. So currently, the house is actually owned by a descendant of the family, and he does not live in Kansas, so he doesn't work on this house all the time. The house has a sign out front that it is a historical landmark and that it's going to be restored, but it's had its fair share of hardships going forward on, waiting for all this to happen as well. With it being in disrepair the way that it is currently now, kids, they vandalize the house, they'll break windows. The owner of it currently, he has done things as in like repair the porch to keep it from falling in, tries to get windows replaced as they get broken, trying to keep it up as much as he can until renovations can be done. There was even a caretaker for the house that in 1996, the caretaker was caught stealing upwards of $30,000 worth of stuff from the mansion. So, I mean, this particular house has had its hardships trying to be brought back to what it was. It has an 8-foot fence going around the property and has signs, keep out, all that kind of stuff to try to stop the trespassers from actually coming in and vandalizing it. So as of right now, the mansion was declared a historical site in 1977, but every time that the current owner tries to do anything to the house, the Kansas Landmarks Commission scrutinizes everything he does to make sure that it's authentic back to the style of the time period, so on and so forth. Anton Sauer and his 5 children and his first wife, Francesca, immigrated to the New York City in 1858. They spent the years of the Civil War in New York building up his businesses. In 1868, Francesca died, and Antoine was ill with tuberculosis, which he had caught when he was in Europe. As the disease was progressing, and for his business purposes, Anton moved his family to Kansas City, where he met and fell in love with his second wife, Mary. She was a widow, and she had 2 daughters. Mary's family showed Anton the undeveloped hill property of where it sits, the house currently sits, which he bought it and was going to make it the site for the new home.
You talk about tuberculosis. Everybody, everywhere, was just getting hammered with tuberculosis.
It was at that time. It was terrible, terrible.
It's like the plague, man.
Or a pandemic. Sauer's Castle was finished and the family moved in during the year of 1872. Anton succumbed to his disease in the second floor bedroom in 1879, leaving his wife and the daughters very well off financially. Around 1930, Sauer's Castle got the reputation for being haunted, which that only grew as the years went by. The house became dilapidated. You know how any kind of place like that, it gets all of its stories that go along with it.
It could be perfectly fine, no hauntings, but as soon as a freaking window pane falls out or a shutter falls off the wall, it's haunted.
Yep. It gets this. All the stories come from there. So the Sauer family sold the family mansion to an entrepreneur named Paul Berry. Paul lived there alone with his dog, trying to maintain the mansion and upkeep it. He changed windows from when rocks would bust them out, repairing damage from break-ins, He even survived a physical assault. He lived there until he died in 1986. In 1987, Bud Wyman and his son and daughter-in-law, Cliff and Cindy Jones, bought the mansion. They owned it briefly for a little bit over a year, hoping to fix it up and pay for it by giving tours to the visitors and making it like a museum of sorts. However, they sold it in 1988 to the current owner who bought the estate, with his dreams of restoring the mansion back to what it was. So, with just a brief history of it, we're going to talk about some of the ghostly aspects of it. Throughout the 5 generations of the Sauer family that lived and died in this mansion, besides Anton's death, his wife Mary also died in the mansion in 1919, as well as other family members throughout the years. Some died of natural, some unnatural causes. 1 suicide, 1 infant death, 1 child drowned in the swimming pool, and Anton's son Julius was killed in a train accident and burned to death. There are some of the ghost stories that exist for this mansion are of occurrences which actually did not happen there. They just were stories that were told, and they brought themselves to life and hung around. There are stories of murders that's happened at the mansion. There's stories of someone hanging themselves from the tower. Unlike these stories, no woman hung herself in the tower. The only suicide that happened there was a man he had killed himself with a gun because he was in declining health and he didn't want to continue to suffer. Another legend commonly reported tells this tale. At the end of the Civil War, a woman, which in the tale they claim that to be Miss Sauer, who lived in the mansion, went to wait at the docks for her soldier husband to come home on the ferry. The tale that's supposed to have been Anton in the tale, but when she waited there, he didn't show up. She was in disbelief that he had died in the war, so she went home and killed herself, thinking that he had been killed, and that's the reason he wasn't there. And in the story, what really happened was he missed his boat, so he came home late. When he came home, he came into the house, found her dead, and then he turned and killed himself because of his distress of finding her. This story is not true. It's just another made-up tale that goes along with the house for one of the ghost stories. Some of the activity of hauntings that happen there is there are reports of lights appearing in the lookout tower that can be seen floating around there and floating around the property. People hear laughter, crying, shouting, all heard around the property and at the home. An apparition of a woman is seen standing and walking on the Widow's Walk and standing in the lookout tower itself. This apparition could be any of the Sauer women who lived there. Supposedly on Halloween, 2 apparitions, a man and a woman, are seen dancing in the lookout tower. Perhaps these spirits could be Eve and John S. Perkins, who was the one who shot himself there. An apparition of a boy was seen at the mansion. Perhaps this was Julius, appearing to be living as the boy he was when he did live there. And because they think that that could be his spirit, it's because he loved the house, and they think that his spirit might have went back to a place that he loved. Personal experiences that's happened at the house. Reported personal experiences that's happened. A wide variety of ghostly manifestations have been reported by folks who have owned this property. Perhaps one of the reasons that the caretakers haven't stayed for very long here is that the former residents of the last century still walk the property. They keep an eye on the living, and there must be reasons why the Jones family sold the mansion so quickly after buying it with hopes of restoring it. Cindy Jones was not faint-hearted. She always carried a small gun with her in case she were to bump into any type of trespasser. She was well able to take care of herself, but she found that handling the paranormal activities at this place was harder than something that she was willing to take on.
Well, I mean, because you can't shoot it.
Can you not?
I mean, I guess you could, but it's not going to do anything.
Have you not watched Ghostbusters?
They have special guns.
Oh.
They got a vacuum.
Just a vacuum? It's a Hoover. Cindy Jones had heard strange noises and felt a range of emotions, from being a bit uneasy to feeling absolutely terrified at times when she was there. She knew that she wasn't alone and that she was sharing the mansion with other unseen residents. While in the attic area of the lookout turret, she heard noises that could not be explained from any type of natural causes that should be there. When she and Cliff checked it out, nothing would be in the area. Cindy reported that the fireplace covers would rattle hard all by themselves. She also heard a strange, methodic singing noise. Her father-in-law also reported paranormal experiences that's not easily explained as well. For instance, while Cindy was preparing for a friend's wedding for an outside affair, her father-in-law was busy taking down the old ceiling in a repair and renewal project in the library. Suddenly, a wedding picture of one of the Sauer great-granddaughters fluttered to the floor. This relative had died in 1967 on the same day as this wedding. So if anyone is around there and you know anything about this place, we'd love to hear about it.
Absolutely.
But besides that, from what I've found here, it's a lot of hearsay.
There's some lore behind it.
I couldn't find any type of pictures. I really didn't look for videos of any kind of investigations that went on here. As I said before, there's a fence that goes around the property. So I'm not saying let's go trespassing, but if anybody's around there and they want to see the place, it's at 935 Shawnee Road in Kansas City, Kansas.
Hey, Brent, you want to go trespassing?
Absolutely. I'm on it. That was the place that I found probably most interesting. Like I said, it's not we have evidence that I could find besides hearsay of the people that's been there, but there'll be pictures. Obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube, there are pictures to go along with the video. This place looked amazing. Would I call it a castle? Nah.
Probably
mansion,
not in
maybe?
today's,
especially
not
for
yet.
that time.
Yeah, not in today's meaning. I would definitely not call it a castle. It's a beautiful place.
Yeah, well, can be. So,
I mean, it's just
hopefully
dilapidated, and once it dilapidates, then that's whenever all the ghosts show up. So I mean, it's just.
But do they leave when you restore it? What happens then? I mean, do they only stay there for the dilapidated state of the place?
That's a good question.
Because apparently they don't show up until that happens. So do they stay? Do they get aggravated when you make it all nice again?
See, why do you have to make valid points?
Just saying. Something to think about.
I like it.
I liked it too. And this can be a short episode. I think we're going to probably like the short episodes for these, and for the people that listen to them, maybe this is something that y'all like better. As we said before, let us know. If y'all like these shorter ones for these 50 state haunts, let us know, definitely. And we'll keep it kind of short like this and carry on. Scott, anything you want to add?
I have nothing.
Everybody, thank you for all the likes. Thank you for the subscribes. We hope you stick around. We hope that you help support us with the likes.
Go check out
anything.
Go check out the merch store.
Oh yeah, the merch is live.
Merch is live.
This Yep, been live for a couple of weeks now. So, everybody, thanks for the likes. Have a great night.